Yes, I've been so excited to get into your story. And so before we start, I would love it if you could just tell people a little bit more about your company and what it is that you do at Wise Women Mastermind.
Yeah, you bet. That's like my favorite thing to talk about. So,
Love it.
what I do really is I get women business owners together, put them in the same room in small groups, and then it's in that space where when women start talking about their businesses and their ideas and all the things that they have going on, that really the magic happens. That's when they're like, oh, you should do this because we naturally want to help each other.
Yeah.
And so when you put them together and one woman starts talking about her business and all of her ideas, then somebody else will jump in and say, well, you could do this, or you could do this, or what about this? And that's the mastermind experience. And I love it. It's my favorite thing.
So let's take a step back. And I appreciate you sharing kind of the mastermind concept because I know in some business circles we talk about them so much. And I
Right.
forget that not everyone, has heard of the idea of a mastermind.
Right.
But before all of this started, take us back to the moment when you, with your previous business, when you realized a website could literally stand between a family and the help they needed. So, what happened and what started you on that journey with building out websites that were high converting and informative?
Interestingly, I started building websites when my son, so I have three kids, and my middle one is a boy, and when he was a teenager, he needed some mental health help. And that's actually really hard to find a mental health clinician who works specifically with teenage boys because there's quite a few out there, and a lot of them work with adults, and then a lot of them work with girls. But that niche, finding those that will work with teenage boys, was really hard to find. And I had a friend at the time that said, April, I've got the perfect company for you. And I said, awesome. Who is it? And so she told me, and I pulled up their website. Very first thing I did. And I looked him up and I was like, yeah, no, like it just seriously, honestly, that was my first impression of that company was their website. And I just thought this isn't for me. And weeks went by and I talked to her again and she said, April, how's it going with them? And I said, yeah, no, I just didn't. She's like, why? Why didn't you call them? They're so good. And I said, honestly, because their website turned me off. And she
Mhm.
said, April, just call. I promise you, this is what you're looking for. Just call. And so because of her, I did. Turns out they were exactly what I was looking for.
Oh,
And
wow.
as my son started working with them, I got to know the owner, and it was a group of several therapists. And I got to know the owner, and I just kind of jokingly said to him one day, I said, I almost didn't call you because your website is so bad. And he goes, really? Like he was just a man doing the therapist thing, and it had never occurred to him that
Oh,
the mothers that were looking to work with their company were being turned off by their website. And so I
oh,
had that discussion with him. And interestingly enough, he said, well, do you want to build one for us? And I went, sure, let me just try it. I'll just do that. Why not? How hard can it be? So there's the kicker. If you ever say how hard can it be, it's always going to be harder than you think it's going to be. But you know what? I just dove in and he said to me, he goes, you know what, April, I really think you can do this because you know what moms are looking for. He's like, you can speak to them where I can't really do that. And so I spent really about the next 6 months diving in, really learning everything that I needed to learn about it. And so I built his company's website, and then he referred me to other therapists, and literally by referrals that grew. I did that for about 10 years and I loved it. But after that, my kids grew up, they moved out of the house. And then I started thinking, I really need some people connection in my life. I'm not at the baseball games anymore. I'm not at the dance recitals. And I was good at what I did, but what I learned about myself, this is interesting. So I actually have a background in education, but what I learned is that just because I'm really good at something doesn't actually mean I really like it.
that is a great takeaway.
Yeah. And it was huge. And I was like, I'm good at this and I like it okay, but I'm not passionate about it. And so then on a plane ride to Cancun with my husband, I thought, what am I really passionate about? What do I love doing? Like if money weren't an option, if I had all the time in the world, what would I want to do? And I thought, I would love to go back into teaching, into working with women, into helping them grow more than one person at a time. Because with the websites and the funnel building and stuff, it's one person at a time, and that's great.
Right.
But I was like, how cool would it be if we could put lots of people together and I'm not the only person that knows everything, but everybody in the room knows something and they can share and help. And
Absolutely love that. You had this pivot as your family was growing and your kids were moving out. And that my favorite part about what you shared was that you started with kind of what you're most passionate about and what drives you, and then
yeah,
testing to see if there was a market for it before you
yes,
just jumped in and said, well, I love this, so I'm going to do it. And then you listened to the women who were coming to you and you
right.
continue to develop from there.